What's good, meaningful movers? Welcome back to Moving with Meaning, the podcast where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. In today's episode, our guest is no stranger to managing life's disappointments and struggles. You've heard of grasping at straws, haven't you? Well, that makes for great kindling. Careful not to go up in flames. But you know how we do it here? We need to set that theme, so let's go ahead and do that. The word of the day is accelerate. Depending on your state of being or mind, you can increase momentum downward or reverse your trajectory to impact not only your life, but spread your message to others. He's one to walk the walk, and his voice may sound familiar as he talks the talk. That's enough of me talking. How about we introduce our guest? And there's no one better to do that than himself. Dave, why don't you give the people a bit of background about yourself and what you are going to share with us today?
Hey, Krystal. Well, first of all, thank you. Always an honor to, be hosted on anybody's show. You guys do all the work. All I've got to do is show up and run my pie hole. Dave Albin, who's that guy? I think I'm still in the discovery process of figuring out who that guy is, even at 70 years old, right? I'm probably one of the luckiest humans on earth. I was chosen to be this guy that learned how to create an experience that literally is probably one of the most life-changing paradigm shift experiences in the world. Tony Robbins, for some of your listeners who might know who Tony is, he pretty much is the guy that got it figured out. And what I'm referencing there is the whole firewalking thing, which I'm sure we're probably going to talk a little bit about today. And what happened with all that? Well, the long story short is I was born to a single mom. We had 6 people living in a 1-bedroom apartment when I was born. My dad, we think he committed suicide 2 months before I was born. So with that, again, so mom had 2 other boys. We had a cousin and her mom. So again, we were all living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Hollywood, California. And when I was 5, mom couldn't feed us. She just couldn't feed everybody. So she went to her oldest sister and said, "Hey, Pat, will you adopt David?" And they did. So they moved me from Hollywood, California to Long Beach, California, right? And I do mean Hollyweird. If you ever spend any time in Hollywood, you'll know it's pretty weird. And so it was wonderful. My dad was the one that was raising me at this point now was a highly decorated officer in World War II. He was a career military officer, worked in the Pentagon. We had a nice house. We had food on the table. We never wanted any or needed anything. We were always provided for. But unfortunately, about 5 or 6 years after they adopted me, both of them started drinking. Both Bob and Pat did. And that's when things took a really hard turn. Pat was kind of a happy drunk, if that makes sense. She'd drink in the kitchen and she'd pass out, but she wasn't mean. Where Bob, oh geez, not a nice guy. He turned into a real nasty human being when he was drinking. He was a great guy when he was sober. And so they went to the store one day, and I was very curious about alcohol, and I knew where they were hiding it. They were hiding it in plain sight. I went over, opened it up, grabbed the bottle. It was a half gallon of brandy. I poured a coffee cup about half full of the darn stuff and drank it at 11 years old. And that was it. I never had a chance, Krystal. Oh. I really didn't. I believe that I was an alcoholic right on the spot because I started acting out. Yeah. It was like pouring rocket fuel into me. You know what I mean? You had courage and I could talk.
Yes.
I mean, right? All this stuff.
Yes.
It just progressed from there. By the time I was a junior in high school, they said, "Albin, you're out. We're kicking you out of high school." And they should have. I was dangerous. I wasn't a nice guy. I was very volatile. And as time grew on, I was homicidal. I was suicidal. And so to move this forward, until June 8th of 1988, I'm in my 3rd marriage. I'm married to a woman. I married her. She had 3 kids, which I thought was a great idea because I thought it would help me stop living this horrible lifestyle of alcohol and drugs. And, it did. It lasted about a week. I mean, I'm joking. It probably lasted a couple of months.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It never, I wanted to stop. And I thought, and she was a bartender. How convenient. Right? Yeah, that worked out well. So the bottom line is that when I woke up on June 8th, 88, I said, "That's it. I'm done. I'm out. I can't do this anymore. This is painful." And I'm talking real painful. I'm talking excruciating. The amount of physical and mental agony that I was under was just overwhelming. I just knew June 8th, that was it. We're going to stop this one way or the other. And as I'm contemplating suicide, it dawns on me, if I do that, I'm going to kill those 3 kids and their mom upstairs as well. I'm going to ruin their life. And I said, you know what? I can't do that. That's wrong. You got to figure out another way. And so the next thought I had, Krystal, was, well, why don't you call Alcoholics Anonymous? Now, here's what's hilarious about that, is that I didn't even know who the heck AA was.
Really?
I don't know who, I've never been to a meeting. I didn't know anybody in AA. Where the heck did that thought come from? I'll just leave it for divine intervention. I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah.
So I did. I called him, and I got this wonderful human on the other end. Over the years, I've affectionately nicknamed her Madge. And the reason I did is because she talked like this. Right? She was wonderful. She was an incredible human, but she was probably smoking 2 packs of Pall Mall non-filters a day. And so her voice was real raspy, right? But man, I tell you what, excuse my French, but she was a badass.
Yeah.
It was her job. She was a gatekeeper, right? So she's answering the phone for AA. And so she would interview you. And if she thought you were serious, she would literally call someone in AA to come pick you up.
Oh.
And she did. She called an amazing man by the name of Lauren. And Lauren came and picked me up. And I went to 4 meetings that first day. Bear in mind, I'm grossly addicted to heroin, cocaine, alcohol, smoking cigarettes, chocolate chip cookies. I mean, you know what I mean? Anything that was addictive, I was like, sure, let's do that. Because I was doing one of 2 things. I was either chasing pleasure or I was trying to avoid pain. At the end of the day, that's all my life had come down to. And so anyway, I went to my first meeting, and I went to 4 meetings that first day. And I know we're audio only here, but I'm holding up a little chip, and they gave me this medallion. And it said, "To thy own self be true." And it had the AA emblem on there. And they gave me that. And they said, "Put that in your hand and squeeze it as hard as you can." And I'm like, "Yeah, it hurts." And he goes, "Yeah, that's right." And that's just a sample of the pain that you're going to continue to suffer if you don't stop drinking. So anytime you want to feel it, just take that medallion out of your pocket and squeeze it. And I did. And then they gave me a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. They literally took it. The men in the meetings that day, it was an all men's group, by the way. And so they signed it. They took the front cover and they signed it on the inside. They said, "Before you take that first drink, call one of us." And they literally put their first name and their phone number. So I had a whole list of people that I could call. And I went home that night. Miraculously, I didn't use. And I got a call the next morning from one of the guys in AA, and he came and picked me up. He took me to a meeting, took me to breakfast. And that's how my career in AA started. Just unconditional love out of these guys. Now, that's not to say they weren't a bunch of badasses. They were. They were professional alcoholics. They knew what was going on. They knew how sick I was. They knew how much help I needed. And they acted accordingly. And so that rubbed off on me. It influenced me big time. You know, because if you go into AA, you got the 12 steps that help you put your life back together. You've got the 12 traditions that help you show how to operate within the group. And then right there in the middle, the sweet spot, I like to call it, is called the preamble. And the preamble says, when anyone anywhere reaches out, I want the hand of AA to be there. And for that, I'm responsible. These guys were proving that to me. And so again, you know, monkey see, monkey do. And that's what I did. I wanted to be a gatekeeper. I wanted to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. I loved it. Because, you know, the only 2 places I ever really felt like I fit in, Krystal, was either in a crappy little bar in a dangerous part of town somewhere or an AA meeting. And that was it. You know, I never looked back. This June of 2024, it'll be 36 years. So here's what happened. When I'm getting sober, I had insomnia. So I was up late all the time, right? So I'm up late one night, 3 o'clock in the morning. This is in 1988. Guess who's on the airways? A young Tony Robbins, the infomercial king, right? He's selling personal power back in 1988 through Gunther Ranker. And I mean, he probably had, 30 infomercials an evening. And of course, he advertised at night because that's where all the people that need help are.
True.
Right?
Very true.
Yeah.
Had a great marketing guy.
Yeah, he did. He had Gunther Ranker, man. They were the best of the best. And so, you know, when I first saw him, Krystal, I didn't like him. I thought he was pompous. I thought he was an ass. I thought he was, you know, he's just real motivated, right? And I wasn't. I was miserable. So I'm not congruent with him, right? But he said 2 things that got me. I said it earlier. The first thing he said was, "We'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure." And I went, "What? Tony, are you talking to me specific?" It was like he was talking directly to me.
Yeah.
And then what really got me, he said, "Let me tell you how human beings make decisions. It's one of 2 ways. We're either inspired by inspiration or desperation." I went, whoa, okay, he's talking to me again. Because, you know, I was pretty desperate, obviously. Yeah. And so I bought his program. And it was a 30-day program. And so I went through it. I did what the man taught me to do, and it worked. Well, long story short, I ended up loaning my program to a buddy in AA. And he called me 7-8 years later in 95 and said, hey, did you know Tony's coming to town? I'm like, no. He goes, dude, come on, you got to go with me. You got me into this. I go, okay, fair enough. I go, yep, all right. My calendar's open for that weekend. We can do this. It's a 4-day event. And he said, they told us to drink a lot of water, stay hydrated, bring snacks. You got to spend a lot of time in the room, have a good attitude, be ready to play full out. Anyway, so he's getting ready to get off the phone. He goes, oh, wait. Don't go anywhere. I need to tell you something. I forgot to tell you the most important part. Okay, what's that? He goes, we're going to be doing a firewalk. And I went, what? I'm not saying anything. Now, first of all, I don't know what that means. But the word fire and walk in the same sentence didn't sound like anything that I wanted to be doing. Yeah. I wanted to go see Tony, but I'm thinking I'm not doing this firewalk thing. But I'm not going to let my buddy know that. I'm not going to think, that I'm a coward, right? And I just pawned it off. I said, yeah, sure, Dan, firewalk sounds interesting. And I hung up the phone and said, no.
Was this in like the 4th day or of the
No,
program?
this was when he called me back to let me know that he had made the arrangements for us to go to the event.
Oh, wow. So this is okay. So this is early on.
This is at the very, very beginning. And I'm saying no. That's a hard no for me. That's a hell no for me. No, we're not doing that. So the big day comes and we get there and we get in our seats and Tony takes the stage at 2:00 in the afternoon. Well, the next thing I know, Krystal, it's after midnight. I've been in a room for 10 hours with this dude, right? Remember the guy? Hey, bring snacks?
Yes.
Yeah, you better. You'll starve to death.
You couldn't leave the room or anything like that? Like you had to stay in there?
What? That's a great question. Nobody did. Nobody wanted to leave.
Wow.
That's how good of a job Tony does from the stage. He's phenomenal. I didn't even want to go to the bathroom. I was so interested in listening to this guy. So anyway, it's after midnight. All of a sudden, Tony goes, take your shoes off. And I'm like, oh, no. No. I see where you're going with that, pal. Yeah, you're not tricking me. I ain't doing it. I'm not doing your firewalk. I don't care what you say. Well, I got a problem, Krystal. I'm in a room with 3,500 people. Guess what they're doing? They're taking their shoes off.
Shoes off. Yep.
Don't be so stupid. How can you be that lame? He's going to get you. So now I got a dilemma. What am I going to do? What am I not going to take my shoes off? Because we got to leave the venue and go outside into this big giant parking lot where the firewalk's going to take place. Well, it gets worse because as soon as Tony gets you going out there, he gets everybody to start chanting and clapping. Now you got 3,500 people with their shoes off walking outside going, yes, yes, yes. And I'm walking out there going, no, I'm not doing this. So my plan is, when I get out there, I'm going to ditch my buddy and I'm going to go hide in the back. It's very easy to get lost in 3,500 people. Well, it gets worse because when you get out there, he's got African drummers.
Oh my gosh.
Dun, 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 dun. I'm thinking, oh my God, what a dog and pony show. People are clapping and they're yelling and there's drummers. Over in the corner, Krystal, there's a giant fire. They've been burning it all day. There's a pit and that pit's 35 feet wide, 70 feet long. And they add cord after cord after cord of wood to it, hardwood. And so it burns all day and it renders. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the night, you've got this big, giant, beautiful pile of blue coals. And they just take a flathead shovel from that wheelbarrow full of coals and they sprinkle the coals on top of that grass, of that sod. And that's what you walk on. Well, I dished my buddy. I'm hiding in the back. I got it all figured out. No, I don't. Because Tony Robbins knows the reason he brought firewalking into his community and into his seminars because he researched it. This is a 1,000-year-old rite of passage. It's over 1,000 years old. Because if you look at the Phoenicians, or you study the people of India, or the Polynesians, or the Hawaiians, or the people of Portugal, or the Spaniards, or the Native American Indians, the Indo-Europeans, I mean, my gosh, cultures all around the world have been using this as a rite of passage. So Tony knows, he knew going in that this is literally probably the most powerful experience any human can undergo. And so that's why he brought it into his seminars. He also knows there's people like me and we're hiding in the back. So he doesn't want us not to get through it because we probably need it more than anyone else. And he also knows that, again, if you don't do it, the paradigm shift is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So what's he do? He trains people to come find us.
Oh, he's got you guys all figured out. Okay.
He's got us completely figured out, idiots. And all of a sudden, here comes this guy. Literally, Krystal, he comes out of nowhere. And he makes eye contact with me, and he won't take his eyes off me, and he's walking right at me. And he gets 20 feet from me and he looks at me like, you know, when a dog hears a funny noise, they tilt their head, right? Well, that's how he's looking at me. Like there's definitely something wrong with me. He said, so, hey man, are you okay? And of course I'm not, but I lie. I'm scared to death. I'm dealing with all my past. I'm dealing with all this stuff that's going on in my head, and it's moving fast.
Well, one sec. That's interesting that you saw this firewalk, and this is, like you said, a rite of passage, and it was just everything that you have been going through and have been lived to was just coming up, and you're like, no, I'm going to move away because, as you said, you know, we're avoiding pain. Not only that, it brought up these things.
Oh, and it's fear.
Yes.
Because everything in your life is governed by fear and how you deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is, right? So what does fear mean to you? At that moment, it was forget everything and run.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after the firewalk, that shifted because it became face everything and rise. Or as we like to say in AA, false images appearing real. And I love that one because that was really realistic. But I'm dealing with it in that moment, right? Because everything that I didn't have in my life, pretty much fear took it away from me. Because I'm dealing with you're learning that fear is a liar at that moment. And it's, again, that's why he's bringing the firewalk into place. The next thing I know, this guy goes, well, so, hey, man, you going to walk tonight? And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, you idiot. Why do you think I'm hiding in the back? And he's like really cool about it. He's like, hey, man, no problem. We don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. And I thought, wow, okay. He's going to get me out of here. Well, no, he's not. He's tricking me. He wants to get me across that fire and give me a gift. That's really what he's trying to do. That's his outcome. And then, so here's a stranger, by the way, Krystal, I don't know who this guy is to this day. I really wish I did, because without him, I'm certainly not on your podcast. I certainly wouldn't have influenced tens of thousands of people with the firewalk experience without this guy. Because the question he asked me was, well, wouldn't you at least like to watch? And I thought, well, yeah, sure. What can that hurt, right? Yeah. Let's go watch these people burn their feet off. It'll be entertaining. Right? I'm arrogant, right? You know what I mean? I'm just dealing with it. And he goes, well, listen, man, you can't see anything from way back here. Just get in line. And eventually you'll get up there and you'll be able to see it. Okay, he tricked me to getting in line. I took the bait. But he's also, in his defense, he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
Because I got 3,500 people in front of me. I can't see anything. Got a wall of people. I can hear it. They're clapping. They're chanting. The drums are going. People are already firewalking, and when they get to the celebration on the other side of the firewalk, they're screaming and yelling with exhilaration. Krystal, it's a dog and pony show unlike anything you've ever seen or witnessed in your life. And so I'm just kind of walking along, right? Minding my own business, knowing, okay, eventually I'm going to get up there, I'm going to see it. And all of a sudden, another stranger comes up to me, and he whispers in my ear. And he said, he knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. And pew, he just disappeared into the night. And I'm like, what? What do you mean he knows when you're ready? When he says go, you go. What does that mean? And all of a sudden now I get to a point, though, I can see at an angle down the lane. And they're doing it. These people, every race, every creed, every color, the fire doesn't care about any of that. It doesn't care about masks. It doesn't care about vaccines. It doesn't care about political status. It doesn't care what color your skin is. It doesn't care if you're male or female. The fire doesn't care. Which is so beautiful, right?
Yeah,
it's the element. So, and I'm watching them and I'm mesmerized, right? It's like you say to yourself, you're not going to stare at a car wreck, but we do it. And the next thing I know, boom, guess where I am? I'm at the front. I'm at the front of the damn line. And I'm like, how the hell did I get here? So now it's all me. It's like it's like spotlights that all of a sudden now they're shining on you, kind of a thing, right? And so I'm standing there and I'm looking at that fire lane. It's 3 feet wide, 18 feet long. And the coals are bright red. There's no question that those coals are hot. Well, thank goodness there's a trainer there. And as I'm staring into the abyss, my heart's pounding so hard, the trainer goes, eyes up. And I pulled my eyes up. Well, it dawned on me in that moment that you're in a room with Tony for 10 hours. Guess what he teaches you to do? Keep your eyes up. Don't stare at what you fear. Look to the celebration end. That's where the reward is. Because everything we've ever wanted is sitting right over there on the other side of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so the trainer goes, squeeze your fist and say yes. And I went, yes. And he went, stronger. And I went, yes. He knew I wasn't in a peak state. I was leaving a lot on the table, and he knew it. So he got in my face and screamed at me. And he screamed really loud, stronger! And I lost it, right? I threw my hands in the air, and I screamed, yes, as loud as I could. And he goes, go, go, go! Boo! I took off. Remember the guy, the other stranger, come up to me and he said, he knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. I did.
Yeah.
Here's the first thing I learned about firewalking. When you take the first step, oh, you'll take the second, third, fourth, and fifth. I promise you. You will not stop on that fire lane. Well, they catch you. They put a couple guys down there and they catch you and they're like, stop, wipe your feet and celebrate. And I'm wiping my feet and I'm celebrating and I'm like a little kid in a candy store. I had never felt more exhilaration in my entire life. So I went from 4 seconds being completely, probably more scared than any time in my entire life to total exhilaration in 4 seconds. And in that moment, I thought I could do anything. I'm like, let's go climb Everest. I mean, you know what I mean? You just go, it's unbelievable. And it's collective because you're standing down there with 1,000 other people and they all pretty much are experiencing the same exact thing. So your self-belief, your self-confidence, and your self-worth all get raised at the same time. So it's collective. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. The next day. Oh, by the way, did I wash my feet that night? No.
Okay.
I was like, this is disbelief, man. How did I not burn my feet? There's no burns on my feet. And I walked on coals over 1,000 degrees. There's not one burn, nothing. That was day one, the evening of. Now it's day two. So now Tony's got you. He's got you in the foyer. You're getting ready to go into the venue the next morning. And I'm watching all these people, Krystal. It was so beautiful. People were getting along humanistically unlike anything I'd ever witnessed. People are talking and laughing and crying. They're hugging. They're telling their stories about the firewalk. They're telling the stories about their fear. And I'm sitting back going, did we really drink the Kool-Aid last night? Yeah, you better believe we did. And again, it's one of the most life-changing moments any human will go through. And so later in the event, I met one of Tony's trainers, a guy by the name of Ted Macy. Him and his beautiful wife, Mary, both were trainers for Tony. And so I'm just talking to Ted, having a conversation. And I said, so Ted, what's it like being in this environment on a regular basis? He goes, I'll tell you what. He said, you see those people standing over there with the black shirts with the pink writing on the back? Yeah. He goes, dude, they're volunteers. There were people just like you who said, I want to come back and be in this environment. And so all you got to do, if you want to do that, when you get home, call Robbins Research, ask for a crew application. They'll send you one. And I did. 9 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail that said, Dave Albin, congratulations. You've been selected to crew with the Anthony Robbins companies.
Oh, good.
Color my ass happy. Well, I'll move this forward. I went from that crewing, 6, 7 times because of my background in the military and the security experience. And I was living on a farm. I knew how to split wood. I knew what hardwood was. I knew what a hatchet was. I knew what kindling was. They put me both on the security team to help take care of Tony's celebrities, and they put me on the fire team. And they also gave me a free ticket once they did that. So I got to bring my wife because I'm going to these events and she's like, who the hell is Tony Robbins? I'm spending $1,500 every time I go to volunteer. After 5 or 6 times, she's like, hold on a second. You just dumped 10 grand on this Tony Robbins guy.
Yeah.
So I took her to an event when she graduated on day 4 and she goes, okay, I get it. I'm in.
Good.
As long as they're going to hire you as a subcontractor and they're going to pay for it, fine, go. So I did. 2003, Robbins offered me the captain position. That meant that I would take over all of Tony Robbins' firewalks globally. And because I was homeschooling my kids at the time, Robbins paid for my kids to go on the road, including my wife.
Oh,
so my kids, their very first event was Sydney, Australia, right?
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
2005, Krystal, we went to London. That's where we set the world record. We firewalked 12,300 people. Now, I want to disclose to your listeners something super important, and that is Guinness Book of World Record was not there. They didn't record it. But here's what I can tell you. That was the largest firewalk that's ever been done in the history of our planet. And the only thing that comes any close to that is another Robbins event at 10,000 or 9,000. 2014, my life took another radical turn. I'm driving down the road, my phone rings and it's Google. Okay. Mountain View, like Google. And they're like, hey, you the Dave Albin that does the firewalks for Tony Robbins, right? Yeah. What can I do for you? Well, if you're not under any contractual obligation or non-compete, we'd like to talk to you about hiring you. Homeboy's a free agent. What you got? And so they did. They hired me. They knew they had 148 executives graduating from a very intense 9-month curriculum. And they wanted to create the paradigm shift at the end and anchor it in for all 148 of them. Most big CEOs know that what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you.
Yeah.
You want to improve your people and you want to do it collectively, then you're going to have to treat them like Navy SEALs. They all have to move as a unit and they all have to go through the experience at the same time. So the next day they can look at each other and go, look what we did last night. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's what causes it. So if these are your work buddies and these are the people that you're surrounded with in your environment, then guess what? You all raise their self-worth together at the same time. In fact, there's a book out there called Stealing Fire. It's in there. It explains the whole thing. As a matter of fact, I ended up doing 2 events for Google. 2014, that's when I started Firewalk Productions. Shortly after that, we were at NASA, and then Notre Dame, and then Virginia Tech, and then Microsoft, and Heineken, and Remax, and Chick-fil-A, and YMCA, and the next thing I know, I'm with Krystal on her podcast. It's like, right? You just don't know. You never know where that's going to lead you. So since 2014, after hearing from Google, by the way, one of the Google executives turned to me and said, "Hey, Dave, you should start your own company." She said, "Corporate America will be all over you. This is exactly what they need. They
100.
Can't afford. Tony's not going to go out and do all these. It ain't going to happen."
I agree.
Right? They can hire you.
Yeah.
And you can custom design a firewalk for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
What are they doing? They launching a product? Is there dissension going on? Is there a breakdown? I mean, what's happening? So all they have to do is come to me. So since 2014, pun intended, we've been going hot and heavy ever since.
That has been great. And I'm gonna save my little tag here of what I got from that, which to me is just amazing of what you went through from just all the different influences that you had in your life. But you also mentioned that you work with a nonprofit, right? An Operation Do No.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. So here's what happened on that. So I got into podcasting about a year ago. I think I've been on 150 shows since last year, pretty close. And so a couple of months ago, I'm on a show. I'm with somebody like you. I'm like with Krystal Clark, right? Well, after that, she wanted to talk. And so we're just hanging out. I'm talking. Her name's Natalia Earl. And Natalia goes, "So Dave, let me ask you something. Have you ever done a firewalk for veterans?" I go, "No, why?" And she goes, "Dave, I got 200 veterans." She's like, "You're aware of the suicide rate, right?" I go, "Yeah, the number I hear is 22. She goes, "Dave, that's not true. Not even close." She goes, "You have to realize that's only if they leave a note. And less than probably 30% of them leave a note. The number's probably closer to 50. A day, men and women, veterans."
A day? Wow.
Yeah, that's devastating. Now, I'm a vet. My dad that raised me was a highly decorated vet in World War II. He's an officer. He's career military, worked in the Pentagon, all of that. I was surrounded by, my buddies during Vietnam. I grew up in that era. So it hit me hard. Wow, how cool would it be to do a firewalk and design it specifically to save their life? How beautiful would that be? So I said, "So Natalia, let me do this. Can I take 24 hours? Let me go think about it. Let me sleep on it. Let me get back to you. But I'm in. I'm going to help you." She said, "Oh, fantastic." I woke up in the middle of the night, and that's where the name came from, Operation Do No Harm. And here's what I did. It took on another life form because there's 4 categories of people now that Operation Do No Harm will serve. Number 1, as you said, veterans. Number 2, first responders, right? Firefighters. Very high suicide rate amongst firefighters. Do you know what firefighters see every day? Do you know what it's like to roll up on an accident and have to cut that car open and pull kids out? And you see that day in and day out. And then all of a sudden one day you retire and you move away from that. Depression sets in because your purpose is removed. That's why people commit suicide. When vets come home, they get removed from what they were doing over there. They were moving as a unit. They were keeping each other alive. They were trained how to kill. And the next thing you know, now all that goes away and they get fragmented. They come home and they don't know what to do with their life. And so depression sets in. Next thing you know, they reach for a drug. And so that happens to firefighters. It happens to single moms. I was born to a single mom, so that's one true to my heart. And then there's another category, kids that have been abused and neglected. So those are the 4 categories. So now what I'm doing, I'm taking Operation Do No Harm. I'm taking it out to the corporate world. And I'm saying, who do you want to save? How'd you like to make your brand look absolutely amazing? Here's what we'll do. Operation Do No Harm and Firewalk Productions will do all the work. We'll do all the heavy lifting, and you'll get credit for it. So pick a category. Who do you want to save? If they hire Operation Do No Harm, then it's a write-off.
Yeah.
And, companies sponsor stuff all the time. When's the last time you sponsored an event that's going to save men and women's lives, though? And again, your company's going to get the spotlight. You're going to get all the credit for it. And so, the other side of that is not only does the community get to look at that company in the spotlight, look what it does for the psyche of all the employees. That's a beautiful thing because now they're the ones that are going, look what we did. We just sponsored, this event for first responders and veterans or kids or moms or whatever.
I love that. It's so enlightening how you've put the categories of suicide rates, and it's mind-blowing, but it's also believable. I mean, just from being in one of those categories. It's like you have to give credit to these individuals. I keep saying the weight of Atlas is just on them day in and day out.
It's so true. One of the companies I deal with that I absolutely love and adore, they know it. When you do a firewalk, you need an instrument to light the fire. Well, I'm holding up right here, and I know your listeners can't see this, but I'm holding up a Zippo lighter, and they got my logo on them. They're beautiful. Oh, they're gorgeous. They're so beautiful. The bottom line is that I called them and I said, hey guys, going into Operation Do No Harm, are you guys interested? And they went, oh, heck yeah. So the lighter's ready. So we're going to give those lighters to people that come, right? So if you're a first responder or a veteran or a single mom, we'll give you a lighter. Obviously, we can't give one to the kids.
Yeah.
But we might be able to give it to mom and dad who can give it to the kids someday. It's appropriate to do so. So we're really excited. I've had another really cool company reach out to me, the American Weed Company out of California, and they're working really, really closely with the Veterans Administration. They're creating a cannabis strand that has been engineered specifically for PTSD, complex PTSD, and depression and suicide. Also, doTERRA. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
No.
They're an essential oil company. They're out of Salt Lake. And they literally, and I just got 4 vials of it, they created an essential oil specifically for the veteran.
Oh.
Right? So when they firewalk, it's going to be stop, wipe your feet, smell this.
Yeah.
And so the moment they smell it in that peak state, you know how powerful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You ever smell something that reminds you of your grandma's house when you were 5 years old?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's how it works. So the same thing here. We're going to take the O factor. We're going to let them smell it. And then we're going to give them this. There's 4 different oils in here that they created. We're going to give them this vial. And it's a roll-on. And so, a week later, if they want to go back to that moment, what it was like to be in that exhilarating state, just put a little on your skin, smell it, and boom, it'll take you right back. So we're really excited about that. That's really cool. So, yeah, we got a lot going on, and we need a lot of help. There's no doubt about it. So,
yeah, you're tapping into all of the main pieces of just mental health, memory, because it's like you're building memory muscle for positivity.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love it.
Yep.
I wanted to throw a quick plug in here for you before I ask you for your golden nugget. I did want to add, perhaps, because I am a child who was abused. So even if I attended that firewall, I would love to receive that.
Sure you do. Absolutely you do.
That would be definitely something awesome to kind of add that little piece there.
Krystal, you have no idea how much I would love to give you that gift.
I'm going to look you up, man. I'm going to look you up. I really am. I was really wiping tears when you had mentioned that one part about the guy getting in your face and screaming, because it was like a moment where all your negative influences was meeting all the positive influences. It was just an emotional moment for me, because I just remember being in that point where I was choosing positivity. I was choosing everything over what had happened to me, and I was actually taking back control.
Yeah, it's liberating.
Yes, it very much was, just listening to it.
And it all comes down to a single moment.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, too, that you've had your moments, mine, everybody has. I know all your listeners have had their own, we've all had our own moments. And one of the things I heard Tony say many, many years ago, and he said, it's in our moments of decision that our destinies are shaped.
Yeah. Well, you have been just a wonderful guest, Dave. And I mean, you've dropped so many on us, so I hate to even ask this, but do you have any golden nuggets to add that ketchup, just to recap for us?
Golden nuggets. Yeah. I'm 70 years old, and guess how many medications I'm on? 0. And the reason for that is because I chose to pay attention to the truth. So what does that mean? One of the things I've learned that's really important for most humans, and that is don't negotiate with yourself. If you tell yourself you're going to do something, do it. Stop the nonsense. You want a golden nugget? Here you go. Read a minimum of 10 pages every single day in a good book. Well, think about it. 10 pages. How many pages is that in a month? That's 300.
Yeah.
That's a good book. That's 12 incredible books a year. If you don't think that won't change your life, you are wrong. You are mistaken. And I'll leave your audience with this nugget. Do the things that are hard in life, and your life will become easier. Do the things that are easy in life, and your life will become hard. I think the 2 most important times in someone's life is the moment they're born and the moment they figure out why. And then finally, here's what my mentor told me many, many years ago, and I've never forgotten it. He said, Dave, understand this. Every human has two lives, and the second one starts when you realize you have only one.
Hey, I told y'all he could walk the walk, and I told you he could talk the talk. That's the episode today. Imagine feeling never good enough, worthless, used. For many of us, we don't need that deep of an imagination. We are or have lived our lives feeling this way. We find ourselves out of the tunnel only to climb another hill to avoid relapse, temptation, and depression. It's the focus, I tell you. Aim down the sights of the barrel of your passion, and you'll get there, step by step, day by day. That's why I appreciate Dave sharing his story of alcoholism, challenges with sobriety, and how he donned the hero armor to walk over all those coals of mistreatment and invalidation. Alas, no one said being a hero or heroine was easy. It takes work, but we are no strangers to that. I hope you have been inspired by Dave's story and his events and services for the day-to-day troubles that can mount up for children and adults alike. Maybe you have something to share from your own experiences or offer some supportive words to those budding heroes and heroines. I love it all, and so will someone else. Before I let you go, Dave, why don't you remind people who you are, where they can find your resources, or reach out to you?
Sure. And thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I'm very accessible. Go to our website. That's the easiest place to start. firewalkadventures.com. Adventures is with an S, all one word, firewalkadventures.com. I do have the Dave Albin Firewalk Academy for those who are brave enough to want to come and learn how to do this, how to facilitate firewalks and board breaks and brick breaks and arrow breaks and rebar bending and glass walking, and really how to create an environment of change for people and create some of the top corporate team building experiences in the world. You can come to the Academy. We do it once a year in October. If you want us to hire us to bring a firewalk to you, we'll create the spectacular experience. We'll come and deliver that. And then if you want to sponsor one of our groups in need, the vets, the first responders, the moms, or the kids, get a hold of us and we'll come do all the heavy lifting and we'll make your company look really great. So on behalf of my entire team, Krystal, thank you for letting us come on your amazing podcast. You're doing amazing work, and thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll make sure to include all of Dave's resources and connections in the episode description, as well as on my website's resources page, movingwithmeaning.com. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving With Meaning the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community here. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at movingwithmeaning82. Also connect with me on LinkedIn. I do dabble in TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. My YouTube channel is up. Kindly run over there and have a look or two. Links are in the episode. Alrighty, I'm Krystal on Moving With Meaning the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.